This is Heather Kenny, and this is my digital presentation for Communication Fluency, The Martian, a model for fighting feelings of social isolation. The ideas of abandonment and isolation are powerful in the human psyche and in our culture. The image of the castaway is a theme referenced frequently in literature. I will argue that the movie The Martian provides equipment for living for people who suffer from feelings of isolation. The castaway could be said to be a representative anecdote, which Brummett says can, quote, sum up the essence of a culture's values, concerns, and interests in regard to real-life problems. In other words, the power of the castaway image is because it resonates with a fear that is common at the collective cultural level. In The Martian, Mark Watney is an astronaut and botanist taking part in a mission on Mars who is accidentally left behind when his crewmates have to unexpectedly blast off because of a violent storm. He wakes up utterly alone, with no way to contact Earth or his crewmates who think he is dead. A sociocultural lens can help us understand how his predicament provides equipment for living. Watney often records himself talking. This functions as a way for him to record the details of his experience, as well as to try to understand the challenges he faces. At one point, he enumerates all the challenges to his survival. How is he going to create enough food to eat, air to breathe, and water to drink to survive until a possible rescue, which could be months or years away? He is interacting with his situation as a social object. According to Manfred Kuhn, a social object can be any aspect of the person's reality, a thing, a quality, an event, or a state of affairs. Talking to himself in this manner also reaffirms his cultural identity, as defined by Stella Ting Toomey. He could be said to identify with the culture of explorers or NASA, people who manage their fears in the face of adventure and discovery. They're also problem solvers. And perhaps most importantly in this situation, he is reaffirming his identity in the culture of humans. But how can a movie about a futuristic and highly unlikely story of interplanetary rescue help viewers work through their feelings of isolation? The following is a suggestion for a research study to find out. For a study on this thesis, I would focus on two groups. In the first group, I would seek out people who have actively sought out treatment for feelings of isolation, for example, in therapy or group counseling. For the second group, I would choose people with work situations that keep them largely physically isolated from others, such as freelance writers or people who work remotely. As an outline of my study process, I would find the participants by posting notices at places where they would likely be found. Once I had all my participants, I would email them a demographic survey as well as some information about when and where they might attend some screenings of the movie. After they watched the movie, I would provide them with this question. And then after a specified period of time, no more than a week, they would return for an in-depth individual 60-minute interview. I would expect people in the first group perhaps to fall into Jung's category of undifferentiated viewers, in that people whose feelings of social isolation are severe enough for them to seek treatment for it might potentially identify closely with the feeling of being on another planet. Jung notes that movies' ability to create emotional meanings in individuals is valid even if the viewers aren't quite sure what to do with that emotional meaning or how to solve the problems that they present. Even movies that present disturbing or anxiety-provoking situations can provide equipment for living, and then they highlight existing problems. So this kind of negative interpretation can suggest to the viewer that things could be different than they are, causing them to reframe their situations, look at them in a different way. So The Martian could still function as equipment for living, even when it is interpreted negatively. I would suspect that participants in the second group would largely fall into the integrated self category, in that they are probably aware already of the isolating nature of their work, and they probably already have strategies to overcome it, such as making plans with friends or working alongside others in a co-working space or a library. So at the end of The Martian, Mark Watney is rescued. He ends up back at work, on Earth. But even texts that end unhappily or ambiguously without obvious solutions or unappealing solutions, these too can function as equipment for living by presenting a disturbing reality and asking viewers to accept it, which makes them complicit in the need for personal or even collective change. In conclusion, then, The Martian can function as equipment for living both for viewers who can easily relate to the experience of the movie in their own lives, and even for those who cannot, by helping them to reframe the problem and open up potential solutions to it.